on, everyone? My name is Jamon McKinney, or you can just call me Juice, because that is my nickname. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Juice Alert, episode number 35. If you have not subscribed to the Juice Alert already, be sure to do that right about now. You will not regret it. You can find me on YouTube, as well as podcasting platforms. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that great stuff. Also, if you're listening on podcasting platforms, be sure to leave me a good rating and review. If you're feeling kind, it definitely helps me out. Also, if you're watching this episode here on YouTube, be sure to smash that like button right about now as well. A very fun show lined up for you, ladies and gentlemen, today. We're covering 7 NFL topics today. I'm going to break down all 6 wild card matchups for the 2021 NFL playoffs. We got a lot of great matchups. I'll give you my predictions and preview those games. Later on in the show, I will also talk about Aaron Rodgers, the mess that is the New York Jets, and also there's 6 NFL franchises in search of a brand new head coach. So we'll rank in order the best head coaching opportunities on the market, in my humble opinion. So without further ado, we're going to get started. But before I actually do get started, pardon me, I wanted to say you can follow me on social media if you want. My Instagram account is GHIMAN_MCKINNEY. My Twitter account is at GHIMANMCKINNEY. And also, you can follow the Juice Alerts Twitter and Instagram account if you want to get specific updates in regards to the show, as far as when I post content, when I'm active, as far as, putting things out for you guys. You can follow the Instagram account. The Instagram account is the Juice Alert _ and the Twitter account is at the Juice Alert. So it's pretty obvious that in 2020, the Houston Texans had a very disappointing season. The Houston Texans, they went 4-12 on the year. They had an awful season. They fired their head coach, Bill O'Brien. I actually argued that last year, during the playoffs, when the Houston Texans blew a 24-0 lead to the Kansas City Chiefs in that game, Bill O'Brien should have been fired right then and there. Unfortunately, they kept him, heading into the season. He trades away, the Houston Texans' best wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, for David Johnson. Did not even get a first-round pick back in exchange for DeAndre Hopkins. He made so many poor decisions for that team as the head coach and general manager. It was awful. It was a mess. And Houston right now, they're in search of a new head coach. They did just recently hire a new general manager. And listen, I said a couple of weeks ago that not a single starting quarterback could make the playoffs with the 2020 Houston Texans roster and coaching staff. Not a single quarterback. Not Aaron Rodgers, not Russell Wilson, not Patrick Mahomes, and obviously Deshaun Watson had a very good season, but he was not able to overcome this team's lack of talent and this team's dysfunction as far as not having a stable head coach, to really help out Deshaun Watson in this roster. The defense was horrible. The Houston Texans couldn't run the ball effectively. Their offensive line stinks. Their head coach got fired. Like I said, Bill O'Brien is no longer there. He got fired 4 games into the season. But, here's the thing, people. I believe that this terrible, horrible trash can of a season is in the long run going to make Houston Texans starting quarterback Deshaun Watson even better. For a couple of reasons. Number one, Deshaun Watson is finally going to hopefully get an upgrade at head coach. And listen, Bill O'Brien was awful. He was not a very good head coach. Early on in his career, he was actually a solid head coach, but as time went on and on, Bill O'Brien continued to, not adjust his schemes. He did not evolve as a head coach, and it kind of seemed like he was relying too much on Deshaun Watson. When Deshaun Watson was drafted, Bill O'Brien got lazy, and he said, "Hey, Deshaun, you're so great. You need to take us to the promised land. I'm good," okay? But, so the point I'm trying to make is, whether Houston hires a great head coach or a good head coach, most head coaches out there that are candidates are going to be an upgrade over Bill O'Brien. He was that bad, okay? So that's one thing. But also, I believe this gives Deshaun Watson some extra motivation because now Deshaun Watson realizes, hey, listen, I had a great season, but it just, for whatever reason, was not good enough. I need to go harder and harder. I need to continue to get better and better. And listen, when you go through tough times and you lose a whole lot, it really sticks with your mind. It sticks with your psyche. And I think Deshaun Watson is really going to have another great offseason. He's going to continue to put his foot down and work hard because he knows this team is not close to competing and they need every single ounce of his greatness, okay? And Deshaun Watson had a phenomenal year. He completed 70% of his passes. He led the league in passing yards. He threw for 4,823 yards, had 33 touchdown passes, 7 interceptions, and a 112 passer rating. That was the second best pass rating in the entire NFL, behind only Aaron Rodgers, who's probably going to win the 2020 NFL MVP award. And listen, what you have to realize about Deshaun Watson's great season is what he did was hard to accomplish as far as just him putting up those good numbers, him consistently playing at a high level. It's very difficult to consistently play at a high level week in and week out as a quarterback when there's a whole bunch of crap around you, okay? When the roster's bad, the offensive line sucks, the coaching staff isn't helping you out, the defense stinks. It's hard to give your best effort every single week. It's easy to just lay down and say, man, this team's no good. I quit. You know, this season's a wash. I'm going to develop bad habits. I'm just going to go into the tank. And Deshaun Watson is not that guy. He consistently made sure he gave the Houston Texans everything he had every single week. We look at guys like Carson Wentz, who are super duper talented, but Carson Wentz regressed playing for a horrible Philadelphia Eagles roster. Carson Wentz played like one of the worst quarterbacks in the entire NFL when he was starting games for the Philadelphia Eagles before he got benched. Look at Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold obviously is not as talented as Deshaun Watson, but Sam Darnold, he continues to regress because there's not a lot of good stuff around him, and the coaching is bad, and the roster is bad. And listen, I really can't necessarily blame Sam Darnold because he's got no help. He's not the most talented guy, but you can make the same argument for Deshaun Watson. He's got no help. His offensive line stinks. His defense stinks. His coaching staff isn't very good, but Deshaun Watson has made a point to not add on to the Houston Texans' problems. He's been nothing but a positive asset to that team. You can clearly see that Deshaun Watson truly cares about his craft. You know, his great season, despite the team not winning a whole lot, is a testament to, for one, how talented he is, but it's also a testament to his heart and his work ethic, you know. And Dabo Swinney, when Deshaun Watson was coming out of Clemson, he called him the next Michael Jordan. He said, hey, folks, listen, you better not pass on Deshaun Watson because he's Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Dabo Swinney said that Deshaun Watson was the Michael Jordan of football. And while I don't think Deshaun Watson is quite that talented, but I will say, I think Deshaun Watson and Michael Jordan share some similar qualities, especially early on in their career. You know, Deshaun Watson, he comes in his rookie year, was on pace to break a bunch of records before he got hurt. Michael Jordan was breaking records as a rookie, scored 28 points per game as a rookie. Early on in his career, in his second season, he had major surgery, had a major injury, very similar to Deshaun Watson when Deshaun Watson tore his ACL early in his career. And the thing about Michael Jordan and Deshaun Watson is this. Early on in their careers, it was pretty obvious the talent was there. They were generational talents. It's very clear Deshaun Watson is one of the 5 best quarterbacks in all of football, and it was very clear to a lot of people, Michael Jordan, early in his career, he was special. He was a special talent, but Michael Jordan did not win a whole lot of playoff series early in his career until he got Phil Jackson. And that's kind of how I feel about Deshaun Watson right now. Deshaun Watson, he's doing everything he can. He's carrying a bad roster. A couple of years ago, he made it to the playoffs, won a playoff game versus Buffalo, had a 24-0 lead on Patrick Mahomes. But because of his defense, because of his coaching staff, that lead went away. And the Houston Texans, they're only relevant because of Deshaun Watson. But I truly believe if Houston can hit on their next head coach, You're going to see Deshaun Watson making some deep playoff runs and potentially winning some championships, winning some MVPs. Very similar to Michael Jordan. Once Michael Jordan got Phil Jackson to be his head coach, a guy that he clicked with, he never looked back. He never looked back. And that's kind of how I feel about Deshaun Watson. So look, it's a lost season in 2020 for the Houston Texans, but Deshaun Watson, he displayed his greatness, he displayed his talents, and I think Deshaun Watson is only going to grow from the pain and the struggles of the 2020 season. And I think that brighter days are ahead for Deshaun Watson if the Houston Texans can hit on their next head coach. Only time will tell if they do so, however. Okay, so I'm going to shift to this next topic right here. So there are 6 NFL franchises that are in search of a brand new head coach as I speak today. And I'm going to rank all of the head coach openings from best to worst. I'll go in order and I'll tell you which head coaching jobs new head coaches out there should really be banging on the door to pursue. Let's start from the top. What is the most attractive head coaching job heading into the 2021 NFL offseason? To me, the Jacksonville Jaguars are the best head coaching opportunity for a brand new head coach. I put them number 1. Why do I say that? Well, the Jaguars, they've got the first overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft, and there's some really good quarterbacks in this draft, okay? Obviously, Trevor Lawrence, generational talent. Justin Fields, generational talent. Might not be as polished as Trevor Lawrence, but he's really, really good. And also, you look at Trey Lance, he's super duper talented. You look at Zach Wilson, he's pretty talented as well, even though I'm not super high on him. But the bottom line is, you get your choice. You get to choose between Lawrence, Fields, Zach Wilson. You can do whatever you want with the number 1 overall pick. And a lot of people think that Trevor Lawrence, the guy that most people think is going to go number 1 overall, they believe that he might be the best prospect since Andrew Luck. So, look, you can pick your quarterback with the first overall pick, and if you're not sold on one of these quarterbacks, let's say you maybe like a guy like Zach Wilson, you like Trevor Lawrence, but you maybe want to build up the roster with more picks. Well, guess what? There's going to be some teams out there that are going to be willing to give you a ton of draft capital for that number 1 overall pick. They may even throw in a Pro Bowl level player for that number 1 overall pick. So you can get a king's ransom if you trade away that number 1 overall pick. Let's say you trade with, the Falcons. Let's say the Falcons want to get Trevor Lawrence. They got the number 5 overall pick. You very well could get a star quarterback and a bunch of other assets, if you trade away that pick to Atlanta, okay? Not to mention, the Jacksonville Jaguars also have the 22nd overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft and 2 second-round picks. So they've got a ton of draft capital. Not to mention, Gardner Minshew is on the roster right now. I think Gardner Minshew is a solid quarterback, but obviously probably not the future of Jacksonville. But guess what? He's a very good trading asset. If you have Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields that you're going to draft and you want to move on from Gardner Minshew, that's very possible because I guarantee you there are some teams out there that will give you some draft capital for Gardner Minshew because he's a pretty solid quarterback that's very accurate. Not to mention, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they got millions among millions of dollars of cap space. You can spend money in free agency. You got a good young roster. Well, not necessarily a good young roster because the team only won 1 game, but you've got a roster full of a lot of young talent. James Robinson, DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault. I could go on and on. This was the youngest team in the NFL in 2020, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So it's a lot of young talent, not a lot of bad contracts, and expectations are super duper low. This team won 1 game this past season, okay? And I put the Jaguars number 1 on this list. Number 2 to me is the Houston Texans, just for the simple fact that you get a chance to coach Deshaun Watson, who to me right now is a top 5 quarterback in all football, and that should not be up for debate. Deshaun Watson, he's amazing. He's super talented. He's a great leader. And look, the thing about Deshaun Watson is this. I firmly believe if you just consistently hold teams to under 30 points on most Sundays, Deshaun Watson can get you 10 to 11 wins each season. As long as you fix that defense, you are going to win a lot of games. Will you have a lot of draft capital in 2021? No, you will not. But in 2022, you get your first and second round pick back. The bottom line is, as long as you can come in year number one and establish a culture, win the locker room over, win more games than last year, which is not a hard thing to do because the Houston Texans only won 4 games in 2020. So as long as you can win anywhere from 7 to 9 games in your first season in Houston, I think that's a success. You can buy some time. By year number 2, year number 3, you start to get some of those draft picks back. You start to get more cap space. They can start to make more moves, okay? So as long as you believe in what you're preaching as a head coach, as long as you believe you can win over that locker room and quickly just allow this team to compete and be in games, at least in year number 1, I think you're safe to go. You got a star left tackle in Laremy Tunsil. You got a very good young safety in Justin Reed on your defense. You still got J.J. Watt. You got Brandon Cooks at wide receiver. You have an opportunity to re-sign Will Fuller. The bottom line is this team has some talent on the roster. So Houston, they're at number 2 for me. Now the LA Chargers are at number 3 for me. They're the third best head coaching opportunity in my opinion. I would have put them number 2, but the specific reason why I did not do that is for one reason and one reason only. The LA Chargers play in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Andy Reid is one of the 3 best head coaches in all football, and Patrick Mahomes, he's the best player in the sport right now. Best player in all football, best quarterback in all football. That should not be up for debate right now, okay? But the LA Chargers, they've got a lot of good pieces, they really do. And it starts with Justin Herbert, their star quarterback who just had a sensational rookie year. I'm all in on Justin Herbert as I speak today. The guy has a cannon for an arm. He can make all the throws. He has one of the 5 best arms in the entire NFL already. He's a physical specimen. He can move around inside the pocket, outside the pocket. A very good athlete. He can make all the throws. If you can just hold teams to under 30 points on most Sundays, very similar to what I said about Deshaun Watson, just get teams off the field, get the ball back to Justin Herbert, you're going to win 10 to 12 games every single year. And you look at this Chargers roster, they have a lot of talent. At the wide receiver position, you got Keenan Allen, you got Mike Williams, Jalen Guyton. At tight end, you got Hunter Henry, if you can bring him back on a reasonable deal. Austin Eckler's a pretty good running back. Derwin James, when healthy, is one of the 3 best safeties in all football. Joey Bosa is one of the best pass rushers in the entire NFL. Jerry Tillery is a very good defensive tackle that's up and coming. He's a good young player, definitely. And the LA Chargers last year, they were top 10 in both offense and defense. All this team really needs is a stable head coach, and it's not crazy to think next year they could be a playoff team in 2021. This team has a lot of talent, and also the LA Chargers are a big, large market. Free agents will want to come and play in sunny Los Angeles, California. I put them at number 3. Number 4 for me is the Detroit Lions. Look, the Detroit Lions are not the most attractive job compared to the Jaguars opportunity, the Texans opportunity, the Chargers opportunity. I think that those 3 coaching opportunities are really good opportunities. They're slam dunk opportunities, but I think that if you're head coach of the Detroit Lions, it's not all that bad of a head coaching job. You got Matthew Stafford on the roster at quarterback, and Matthew Stafford's a veteran, and you know what you're going to get. Matthew Stafford is one of the 10 most talented quarterbacks in all of football, arguably maybe a top 10 quarterback, but at worst, a very good tier 2 quarterback. You can win a lot of games with Matthew Stafford if you put a good roster around him. And Matthew Stafford, he's still only 32 years old. He's still got a lot of good football left in him. Not to mention DeAndre Swift, Kerryon Johnson. They're 2 pretty good running backs. You got Kenny Galladay. You got Marvin Jones. You got Mohamed Sanu. You got TJ Hawkinson as your tight end. Sanu, Galladay, and Jones obviously are wide receivers. But when you look at the Detroit Lions offense on paper, they have some talent, no doubt about it. And not to mention, the Detroit Lions have the number 7 overall pick in the upcoming 2021 NFL draft. So there is potential you could draft a quarterback if one is there, or you potentially could trade away Matthew Stafford and maybe move up in the draft to go grab a quarterback. Maybe a team is willing to, let you trade up. You could trade down. There's a lot of flexibility as far as what you have to work with your draft capital, because you have the number 7 overall pick and you got some talented players on this roster. Now, this defense is not very good right now. This defense needs a lot of work, and I mean a lot of work. This defense was historically bad in 2020, and you do play in a division with Aaron Rodgers, but I do think that expectations are not as high in Detroit as they would be in a big-time market like, with the Jets. So, look, if you can just be a head coach that comes in, establishes your culture, and if you're the real deal, I think you can buy some time in Detroit. I think you can do some special things with this roster if you play your cards right. So Detroit, they're number 4 for me. Number 5 is the Atlanta Falcons. Look, this division in a couple of years definitely could be up for grabs, because you look at this division right now, you got Tom Brady, Drew Brees. They're awesome. They're great. But they're old. They're not going to be playing in the next 3 to 5 years, I guarantee you. So once Tom Brady and Drew Brees leave that division automatically becomes wide open. Okay, Carolina's a pretty good up-and-coming team, but I do think that, like I said, this division could very well be wide open in the next couple of years once those 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks retire. Not to mention the Atlanta Falcons have the number 5 overall pick in the upcoming draft. So you can draft a quarterback, you can trade down, you can do a lot of things with that number 5 overall pick. You still got Matt Ryan on the roster. I've given Matt Ryan, a lot of flack over the years. I've been critical of Matt Ryan, but Matt Ryan is a stable veteran quarterback. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's a former league MVP. You kind of know what you're going to get from Matt Ryan. He doesn't miss games. He's a reliable veteran quarterback that can still win you some ball games. You still got Julio Jones on the roster. Calvin Ridley is a star wide receiver that's definitely, developing and getting better and better every single year. Russell Gage is pretty good as well. And it's pretty clear to me that when Dan Quinn was fired, this team got significantly better, okay? And Arthur Blank, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, he's pretty patient. I think that, honestly, he might be a tad bit too patient, because I do think that he held on to Dan Quinn as a head coach way too long. But if I'm a new head coach coming in and looking at this opportunity, I want every single opportunity to get things right. I don't want an owner or a general manager that's going to fire me after 2 seasons when I'm not getting things right. I want ownership that's going to stick with me through thick and thin and support me and give me every opportunity to establish my culture, bring in my guys, and get this thing fixed, okay? So I think that Arthur Blank being patient definitely is going to allow the Falcons to be somewhat of an attractive job, but when I look at the grand scheme of things, I have the Falcons ranked 5th on my list because they've got the oldest roster in the National Football League, and there's not a whole lot of cap space, okay? Right now, the New Orleans Saints, they've got the least amount of cap space. The Eagles are next, and right in front of them is the Atlanta Falcons, the 3rd worst cap situation in the NFL right now. So it's an old roster, a lot of bad contracts, but it's still a very good job opportunity in my opinion. Last but not least, the New York Jets are at number 6 for me, and I would not touch the New York Jets at all. This is not an opportunity that I would want at all if I'm an up-and-coming head coach. Sure, you do have the number 2 overall pick. You can do a lot of things with that number 2 overall pick. Maybe trade down, things like that. You've got cap space. You've got Sam Darnold still on the roster. If you believe in Sam Darnold's talent, you can keep him, build around him, use that number 2 overall pick to build a good roster, hopefully, to get a good, impactful player. Maybe you trade down. Quentin Williams is pretty talented. Denzel Mims is pretty talented. But I want no part of the Jets division. No part of it. You're in a division with the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, and the New England Patriots. And those teams have really, really good head coaches. Bill Belichick, he's an elite head coach. Brian Flores very well could be an elite head coach in the next 2 to 3 seasons. And Sean McDermott, I can say the same thing about him. You can make the argument right now, Sean McDermott, Bill Belichick, and Brian Flores are 3 of the top 10 head coaches right now. That's not a crazy statement to make, people, okay? So I don't want to go against Flores, McDermott, and Belichick twice a year. Not with this roster, not with this dysfunctional organization. Keep in mind, Bill Belichick resigned with the New York Jets a long time ago. He saw the dysfunction. He saw the writing on the wall. And the 5 other teams ahead of the Jets on my list have something they don't, okay? The Jaguars have the number 1 overall pick. The Houston Texans have Deshaun Watson. The New York Jets don't. The Chargers have Justin Herbert. Do the Jets? Nope. The Lions at least have Matthew Stafford. And the Atlanta Falcons, they have a much more talented roster. They got better players. So if I'm a head coach looking to, ingratiate myself in the NFL for the first time, I want no parts of the New York Jets. This is a bad roster. This is a bad head coaching opportunity. I would not touch the New York Jets if I was a brand new head coach trying to make my way in the NFL. So, in order, I believe the Jaguars are the best coaching opportunity. Up next, I go the Texans at number 2, Chargers number 3, Lions number 4, Falcons number 5, and last but not least, the worst head coaching opportunity, an opportunity that I would not want to touch, is the New York Jets. So that's my list right there. All right, everyone, let's get into my official 2021 wild card playoff predictions, okay? Let's start off with Seahawks versus LA Rams. The number 3 Seattle Seahawks are favored by 4.5 points versus the 6th-seeded Los Angeles Rams. Now, the big story heading into this game is, will Jared Goff be able to play? Jared Goff recently had thumb surgery. He did not play in Week 17 versus the Cardinals. John Wolford got the start versus Arizona, and John Wolford actually did not play all that bad. He did throw 1 interception, but he had 231 yards passing. He carried the ball 6 times for 56 yards. So, look, I think that John Wolford at least gives the Rams somewhat of a puncher's chance if Jared Goff does not play. It's not ideal if Jared Goff doesn't play, but here's the thing, people. Whether Jared Goff or John Wolford starts for the LA Rams, I know this next statement is going to really annoy and tick off Seattle Seahawks fans, but regardless of who the starting quarterback is for the LA Rams in this playoff game, I'm going to pick the LA Rams to upset the Seattle Seahawks on the road. I really am, okay? Why do I say that? I believe the LA Rams are a bad matchup for the Seattle Seahawks. What is Seattle's strengths? Their number 1 strength to me is their quarterback, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's ability to run around, scramble, and make plays on the move. And also, I look at Seattle, they got playmakers at wide receiver. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, they're really, really good. Okay, so those are the 2 strengths of the Seattle Seahawks. But the LA Rams, 1,000% have the personnel to neutralize those things, okay? Only the Pittsburgh Steelers recorded more sacks in 2020 than the LA Rams. The LA Rams were 2nd in the NFL in sacks this past season. They can get after the quarterback. And Aaron Donald, he's going to put pressure on Russell Wilson. That really good defensive line, they're going to make life hard for Russell Wilson. And that secondary, they have the bodies and the corners and the safeties to match up with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Jalen Ramsey, Darius Williams, and Jordan Fuller at safety, they're really, really good, okay? Jalen Ramsey is the best quarterback in the entire NFL, and Aaron Donald is the best defensive player in the entire NFL, point blank period. The LA Rams are the number 1 ranked defense as far as points per game are allowed right now. And Russell Wilson has struggled versus the LA Rams this season. He struggled versus them last year. They're the 1 team in his division that gives him fits every single year. This year versus the LA Rams, Russell Wilson is completing 60% of his passes, has thrown 1 touchdown to 2 interceptions, and has a 74.1 passer rating in 2 games started this season versus the LA Rams. And I don't trust Russell Wilson to have a great day. Okay, I really don't, because I believe in that LA Rams defense. And I believe they're going to neutralize Russell Wilson and this high-powered Seattle Seahawks offense. And we've seen this year versus the Giants at home, versus the Buffalo Bills on the road, versus the Arizona Cardinals on the road, games in which Russell Wilson struggled, Seattle just lost. If Russell Wilson has a bad game, Seattle's not going to win. And look, I trust Sean McVay with a week to prepare to get John Wolford or Jared Goff prepared for this Seattle Seahawks defense, okay? And I'm going to say this right now. I don't think the Seattle Seahawks are going to score 20 points in this ballgame. Whether John Wolford or Jared Goff is starting for this team, the LA Rams have a really good wide receiver and tight end core. Cooper Kupp is super duper underrated. Robert Woods is really, really good. They've got good tight ends. They've got a solid offensive line. They've got 3 really capable running backs led by Cam Akers, okay, who's a really talented rookie. So I trust Sean McVay's game plan, and I trust the Rams defense to beat Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll, and the Seattle Seahawks on the road in a low-scoring game. I'm going to pick the Rams to upset the Seattle Seahawks in the 2021 wild card round of the playoffs. Up next, Ravens versus Titans. The number 5 seeded Baltimore Ravens are favored by 3.5 points on the road versus the number 4 Tennessee Titans, the winners of the AFC South Division. I'm going to take Baltimore to win this game. I think that Baltimore is going to win this game by at least 10 points. I think that this game will be a comfortable Baltimore Ravens victory. And look, I understand in the last 2 matchups, when these 2 teams have faced off, Ryan Tannehill, Mike Vrabel, and specifically Derrick Henry and the Tennessee Titans have had Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens number. Let's not forget last year in the playoffs, the Baltimore Ravens were 14-2. They were a lot of people's pick to win the Super Bowl, and they choked at home. They lost to the Tennessee Titans, who were the number 6 seed, 28-12 at home. That game was not particularly close from start to finish. Derrick Henry ran all over that Ravens defense. And Baltimore, they came up short. They were one and done in the playoffs despite being the number 1 seed and winning 14 games. And this year, in 2020, Tennessee goes on the road and beats the Baltimore Ravens in overtime, 30-24. And Derrick Henry once again dominated the Baltimore Ravens defense. Okay, and Derrick Henry, he's an excellent running back. He's arguably right now the best running back in the entire NFL. He just capped off a 2,000-yard rushing season, which is pretty unprecedented in today's NFL, where it's a passing league. But I think that Baltimore is due for a victory versus Tennessee, and I believe they're going to be super motivated. This is a big game for Lamar Jackson. Can Lamar Jackson get over the hump and get his first ever playoff victory? We obviously all know that Lamar Jackson played very poorly versus the LA Chargers in his rookie year at home in the playoffs. And obviously last year, he did not play particularly well versus the Tennessee Titans in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson, I think that he's a top 5 quarterback right now. But what's separating the elite quarterbacks from Lamar Jackson, well, I should say, what is keeping Lamar Jackson away from him being in the conversation of being better than guys like Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, is he just has not, up to this point in his career, elevated under pressure in the playoffs. And I said in the past, I don't care how talented you are, I don't care how many points you put up in the regular season, I don't care how many touchdowns you throw, if you continue to shrink in the playoffs and you continue to not elevate under pressure when the chips are on the line, you're not an elite quarterback. You're not the best guy at your position. You're just not. So Lamar Jackson, he's great. He's arguably one of the 5 to 7 best quarterbacks in all football, but until he shows me he can elevate under pressure, I can only put him so high among quarterbacks right now in today's NFL as far as if I'm ranking who's the best right now in the sport. So this is a big game for Lamar Jackson. I believe Lamar Jackson is going to respond because Baltimore They're coming into Tennessee red hot. In the last 5 games, Baltimore's 5-0. Their offense is scoring 37 points per game, and their defense is allowing only 18 points per game on average. I'm going to take the team with the better quarterback. Yes, Lamar Jackson's better than Ryan Tannehill, Tennessee Titans fans. I'm sorry. So I'm going to take the team with the better quarterback. I'm going to take the team with the better head coach and the team with the better defense. Tennessee's defense is not very good, okay? As long as Baltimore can get out to an early lead and force Ryan Tannehill to throw the ball a bunch of times, I think they can win this game. I think they can win this game very comfortably, okay? And look, I don't really know why Derrick Henry has been able to have such great success versus Baltimore's defense, because they actually have a really talented defense. But for whatever reason, Derrick Henry just eats them for lunch, breakfast, and dinner, okay? So, look, the best way for the Baltimore Ravens to sort of slow down Derrick Henry is to force Tennessee to play from behind, because Tennessee, they're great on script. But when you get them off script, when you force Ryan Tannehill and his Tennessee Titans offense to be one-dimensional, this Tennessee Titans team can be had. We've seen them get dominated by the no-good Cincinnati Bengals in 2020. We've seen the Tennessee Titans get blown out by the Green Bay Packers. In fact, we've also seen Tennessee barely beat the Denver Broncos, barely beat a one-win Jacksonville Jaguars team, barely beat an average Minnesota Vikings team. But we've also seen Tennessee destroy the Buffalo Bills. So it all depends on which Tennessee Titans team shows up. But on most weeks, I get the same Baltimore Ravens team. Baltimore's been very consistent this year outside of the Kansas City game in both games versus Pittsburgh. They've been really, really good. I think that Baltimore rolls in this game versus Tennessee. I think that they're going to come out ready. They're going to punch Tennessee in the mouth from the jump and not look back. I think that Lamar Jackson will play very, very well. Baltimore's hot. They're ready to go. I think Lamar Jackson has a big day along with that running game led by J.K. Dobbins, led by Gus Edwards. Mark Ingram is still pretty good. He's still getting it done. I think that John Harbaugh is going to coach a very good game. So give me the Baltimore Ravens to go on the road and beat the Tennessee Titans and cover the point spread in the 2021 wildcard round. Up next, the number 3 Pittsburgh Steelers are favored by 5 points versus the number 6 Cleveland Browns. And I'm pretty confident the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win this game. I get the team that is the better coach team. I get the better defense. I get the more talented team overall, in my opinion. I get the more experienced team. And I get the more well-rested team. Keep in mind, in Week 17 versus Cleveland, Ben Roethlisberger did not play. Pouncey did not play. TJ Watt did not play. Cam Hayward did not play. Terrell Edmonds did not play. Chris Boswell did not play. These guys are going to be fresh and ready to go in the playoffs versus Cleveland, especially Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger, he's still a very good quarterback, but obviously is getting up there in age. He's not the same quarterback that he used to be. I think that him getting that week to really rest his body and just rejuvenate, charge up a little bit is going to be huge for him heading into the playoffs. I think that Ben Roethlisberger is going to have a very good game, and I think that he's going to be fresh and ready to go. And when we look at the Cleveland Browns, yes, Baker Mayfield's having a very good season. Yes, they've got a really good running game. Yes, Jarvis Landry and Donovan Peoples-Jones and that wide receiver core is very good. Yes, they've got solid tight ends, 3 really good tight ends. Njoku, Austin Hooper, Harrison Bryant, they're really good. And obviously, they've got a couple of good players on defense. Myles Garrett, Sheldon Richardson, and Denzel Ward are notable players on that defense. They're really good. But I think that Pittsburgh just matches up really well with Cleveland. I'm going to take Pittsburgh to cover here. And a huge blow to the Cleveland Browns is they're not going to have head coach Kevin Stefanski on the sideline. Now, their special teams coordinator is going to be filling in due to Kevin Stefanski dealing with COVID. He's not going to be on the sideline. And look, I felt that Cleveland was going to be up against the wall in this game with a rookie head coach. And look, I'm a big Kevin Stefanski guy, but Mike Tomlin, I do believe he's a better head coach today than Kevin Stefanski. And look, it's one thing to get to the dance. It's a whole nother ball game to do damage in the playoffs. So, look, I just think that Pittsburgh's defensive line is really going to challenge Cleveland's offensive line. It's strength versus strength. Cleveland might have the best offensive line in all football, and Pittsburgh, they've got one of the top 3 defensive lines in all football when healthy. So, look, the book is out on Baker Mayfield in this regard. If you put pressure on Baker Mayfield, he's not going to be that accurate. He's going to make mistakes. So, look, I'm very interested to see how well Baker Mayfield plays in the spotlight in his first ever playoff game. I think Baker will play relatively well, but I think Pittsburgh will sack him a couple of times. They'll have messy pockets in front of him. They'll hit him a couple of times. They'll make life uncomfortable. And while Baker will make some plays, I don't think he'll make enough plays to win this game. I think Ben Roethlisberger will outplay him. I think Pittsburgh is the better team. And I think Pittsburgh is going to make it a priority to stop Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and that Cleveland Browns running game. At least they'll try to make it a priority to slow them down. If you could put the game in the hands of Baker Mayfield without his head coach Kevin Stefanski on the road in his first ever playoff game. Look, I'm a big Baker Mayfield fan, but this year I don't think Baker Mayfield is ready to do a whole bunch of damage in the playoffs. So I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this game. I believe they'll cover the point spread, and they will beat the Cleveland Browns in the 2021 wild card round of the playoffs. Up next, I'm going to talk about this game right here. Washington versus Tampa Bay. The number 4 seeded Washington football team, the winners of the NFC East, are going to be facing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Washington. Tampa Bay is the number 5 seed, and Tampa Bay is favored by 8.5 points in this contest. I'm going to pick Tampa Bay to win this game. Look, I think Washington has overachieved this year. I was actually pretty right on the nail with Washington this year because I picked them to go 7-9. I said they were the most underrated team in all football. Of course, I was a guy that whiffed on Dwayne Haskins. I felt Dwayne Haskins would take over the franchise this year and be the guy. He'd be the long-term franchise quarterback. That obviously is not the case, but I said Washington, they were going to be a competitive football team. Ron Rivera would turn that team around. They go 7-9. They win some games they probably shouldn't, and they'll be better than you think. And that's exactly what's happened. They're better than a lot of people thought they would be, because a lot of people thought that Washington was going to be picking top 2 or top 3 in the draft. They'd be in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. Not the case. They're division winners and officially in the playoffs. And Washington's had a great season. They've had to really twist and turn their whole quarterback situation with Dwayne Haskins, with Kyle Allen, with Alex Smith. Ron Rivera's battled cancer. This team is definitely moving in the right direction. However, like I said earlier with the Cleveland Browns, it's one thing to actually get to the playoffs. It's a whole nother ball game to actually do damage come playoff time. In Washington, I believe they're the worst team in the playoffs right now. And look, I think Tampa Bay is going to win by at least 10 points. I believe they'll cover the 8.5 point spread. Look, I think Washington will hang around for 2.5, maybe 3 quarters. I do think this game is going to be close for about 75% of the ball game. I really do. Washington's well coached. They've got a very good defensive line. They've got a solid secondary. And the one thing about Tom Brady is he don't like getting hit. He's never liked getting hit. The book is out on Tom Brady. Look, if you can get pressure on Tom Brady, he will struggle at times. He will make poor decisions. He will make bad throws. He's not good versus pressure. And these days, a 43-year-old Tom Brady is not consistently capable of standing in the pocket and getting hit 24/7. Tom Brady is not what he once used to be. He still had a very good season. So look, I could see Washington having a pretty good day on defense versus Tampa Bay's offense, okay? Because we've seen Tampa Bay versus New Orleans twice, versus the Rams, versus Chicago. When Tampa Bay has gone against teams that can consistently put pressure in Tom Brady's face, they have struggled and they have fallen. So look, I trust Washington's defense to hold Tampa Bay to under 30 points, but I do not trust Washington's offense versus this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. And look, Alex Smith, he's going to get the start. He's been pretty accurate this year. He's made good decisions, but if you get any type of pressure on Alex Smith, and I'm not just talking about sacks, if there are just even some bodies around the guy, he's toast. He's not good versus pressure. He's an older veteran. He's not what he once used to be. Doesn't have the same mobility that he once had. Alex Smith is a bottom-tier quarterback right now. He's got great leadership skills. He's pretty accurate. If you give him a clean pocket, he can dink and dunk it to death. He'll be checked down Charlie, but he's not going to take a whole bunch of shots down the field. He's not going to affect the defense vertically. And Tampa Bay's defense, they're going to be licking their chops versus Washington's offense. Tampa Bay's defense is fast, athletic. They've got a good pass rush. They're really good against the run. And one thing we know about Todd Bowles is this. He will blitz the quarterback. He will bring pressure, no doubt about it. And look, Terry McLaurin, he's a really good wide receiver, a star in the making right now. I call Terry McLaurin the young Antonio Brown, but without the baggage. So basically, you're getting the better version of Antonio Brown long term if he hits. Antonio Gibson's pretty good. J.D. McKissic's pretty good. But outside of those guys, Washington doesn't have much of a second or third punch. Logan Thomas is pretty good as well. But Washington just does not. They just don't have the playmakers to threaten Tampa Bay's defense. They don't have enough firepower to score enough points in this game. I really don't see Washington scoring any more than 13 points on this Tampa Bay defense. Okay, I just don't see it. Okay, look, Chase Young, Montez Sweat, they're really, really good. And I actually am interested to see how good Chase Young does because Chase Young actually, after the Philadelphia Eagles game on the field, he was yelling, I want Tom Brady. I want Tom Brady. I got no problem with Chase Young doing that. He's in the moment, but I want to see if Chase Young can back it up. I want to see if Chase Young is going to have a great day, but in reality, Tampa Bay, they've got the better offense. They've got just as good of a defense as Washington, in my opinion. They're the better team, and I think they're going to win comfortably. I think that Washington will stick around for about three quarters, but once the fourth quarter comes around, I think that Tom Brady and the Buccaneers offense will really start to get clicking, and I see Tampa Bay winning anywhere from 24 to 13, 27, 13, 24 to 13, something like that. They'll win by at least double digits. So I'm going to pick Tampa Bay to beat Washington in the wild card round of the 2021 NFL playoffs. Up next, the number 2 seeded New Orleans Saints are favored by 10.5 points versus the 7 seed Chicago Bears. Now, Chicago's not a great team. They backdoored their way into the playoffs. They're arguably the worst playoff team in the playoffs, not named Washington. And look, I'm holding Drew Brees accountable in this game. The Saints, they got the better team. Okay, they 100% have the better team. They have the better roster. They've got the better quarterback. They've got the better running game. They've got the better offensive line. They've got the better head coach. And they have a defense that's just as talented as Chicago's defense. Okay, I'm holding Drew Brees accountable. The last 3 to 4 seasons, New Orleans has had the best roster in all football. And Drew Brees has not been back to a Super Bowl. And this very well could be the last opportunity that Drew Brees has to try to go for a second Super Bowl, to try to make a deep playoff run, because there are reports that he might retire after the season. So, listen, Drew Brees, do you really want to go out losing to Mitchell Trubisky? Okay, I don't think you want to. So, Drew Brees, you need to play well, because versus Jared Goff and the LA Rams, you came up small last year in 2019 versus Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings. You came up small at home. So look, Drew Brees, Sean Payton, I'm holding you accountable. If you lose this game, it's going to be a bad look, okay? So with that being said, I believe New Orleans is going to win this game. However, I do not expect New Orleans to cover the spread. They're favored by 10 points in this game. I would take Chicago in the points, okay? I'm not picking Chicago to win the game, but I think Chicago is going to make this game competitive, okay? I believe this game is going to be relatively close, okay? If we rewind back to Week 8 of the 2020 season, Chicago and New Orleans met, okay? They faced off versus one another. And that game went to overtime, and New Orleans barely escaped Chicago with the victory, okay? And I do believe Chicago has the defensive line and secondary to give the New Orleans Saints offense problems, okay? And let's keep it $150, people. The New Orleans Saints are the team that's favored to win this game. They're favored by 10 points, okay? Chicago has nothing to lose. Mitchell Trubisky, are we expecting him to go into Chicago and beat Drew Brees? I don't think most people are, outside Chicago Bears fans. Look, most people recognize New Orleans might be the best team in the entire NFC. So in the grand scheme of things, most NFL fans are not giving Chicago any chance to win this game. So Chicago, they got nothing to lose. I think they're going to actually come out early in this game, and they're going to play this game pretty close, okay? I really do think that this will be a tightly contested ball game, but I do think New Orleans, because they have the better roster, because they have the better quarterback and head coach in this matchup, they will win, okay? And if Chicago's going to beat the New Orleans Saints, it's going to come down to if Mitchell Trubisky can make enough throws to win this game. Can Mitchell Trubisky make the big boy throws to knock off Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints on the road? Also, David Montgomery, he needs to be involved in this game plan. When the Chicago Bears are running the football and they're a balanced football team, they're hard to beat. And when Mitchell Trubisky is getting outside the pocket and using his legs, Chicago's offense is actually an offense that could threaten some teams, okay? So if I'm Matt Nagy, I'm making sure David Montgomery gets his touches. I'm making sure that Mitchell Trubisky gets into a rhythm early in this game. And I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to take shots down the field. I'm going to go for it on fourth down multiple times because I've got nothing to lose. No one is expecting my team to make a run, okay? So, look, I do think Chicago will make this game somewhat interesting, but I'm going to pick New Orleans to win. I believe they have the better roster. They have the better coaching staff. And I'll be darned if I pick Drew Brees to lose to Mitchell Trubisky and the Chicago Bears. So give me New Orleans in the 2021 wild card round over Chicago. Last but not least, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. So the Buffalo Bills are the number 2 seed in the AFC. They're favored by 6.5 points versus the number 7 seeded Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to take Buffalo to win this game and cover the point spread. Buffalo in this matchup has the better quarterback. They've got the more explosive weapons on offense. They've got the better coaching staff, although that's not a slight to Frank Wright and his coaching staff because they're really good. I just think that Buffalo has a slight edge when I look at the coaching staffs, okay? Yeah, Buffalo, they got the better coaching staff just slightly. And Buffalo's coming into the playoffs red hot, having won 6 straight games. Right now, today, Buffalo looks like the best team in all football. They're playing better football today than the Kansas City Chiefs. They're playing just as well as the Green Bay Packers. They're playing some really good football right now. And Buffalo's had an amazing season. They swept Miami during the regular season. Miami was a 10-win team. They beat Pittsburgh. They beat Seattle. They beat the LA Rams. The only 3 losses that Buffalo has on the year is on a Hail Mary to the Arizona Cardinals. They did get blown out by the Tennessee Titans, and they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. They've lost to some good quality opponents. They've beaten some really good teams, and when they're losing close, and they're losing to good teams, okay? So this is a really, really good, well-rounded Buffalo Bills team that, in my opinion, is a handful of teams that very well could make a Super Bowl run, okay? I just think that Buffalo is a bad matchup for the Indianapolis Colts just because the Indianapolis Colts are not great off script. If the Indianapolis Colts come out and they're on script and Buffalo gets off to a slow start, I think Indianapolis very well could maybe steal this game. But the minute Phillip Rivers and this offense is down a bunch of points or they're off script, they don't have much of a second punch. So look, if Indianapolis wants to win this game, Jonathan Taylor has to have a big day. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Jonathan Taylor, he's a very talented running back. I said heading into the 2020 draft that Jonathan Taylor should be the number 1 running back taken. I still stand by that statement. He's dynamic. He's awesome. And if Indianapolis wants to win the game, they're going to have to run the football effectively with Jonathan Taylor because if you're running the football with Jonathan Taylor, you're on script. Phillip Rivers is comfortable with a good running game. You can start to call play action plays, take some shots down the field. And Indianapolis, they're just a team that's really good when they're on script and when they're balanced. But they're not a team that is equipped to play from behind. No. They're not equipped to play from behind. They're great with a lead. But when they don't have a lead, or when they have to play keep up, when they have to win shootouts, then that's a problem. And if you run the football effectively with Jonathan Taylor and you keep the chains moving and just shoot out the clock, that allows you a great opportunity to win this football game, because then Josh Allen is on the sideline. And well, guess what? If Josh Allen's on the sideline, if you're chewing up the clock, Buffalo can't do anything about it, because Josh Allen can't score points from the sideline. He has to be on the field. So that's the game plan that I'm looking to establish if I'm Indianapolis. But I just think that Buffalo is way too explosive, both on the defensive side of the football and on the offensive side of the football, for Indianapolis to hang with them. Indianapolis is a very good, solid team, but I'm going to pick Buffalo to win this game and cover the point spread. I think they can win the game by about 8 or 9 points. It'll be close for a while, but I think the Buffalo eventually will pull away. I expect Josh Allen to have a big game. This is a big test for Josh Allen, because last year the Buffalo Bills had a 16-point lead versus Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans, and they squandered that lead mainly because their offense could not do anything in the second half versus Houston, and that blame is put on Josh Allen's shoulder and the coaching staff's shoulder, in my opinion. So we'll see how Josh Allen does his second time around in the playoffs. I think he'll respond and play well. I have Buffalo beating Indianapolis in the wild card round of the 2021 NFL playoffs. So those are all my playoff predictions right there. If you're watching on YouTube or you follow me on social media, be sure to let me know who you think is going to win each playoff matchup and why. Love to definitely know what you guys think and who you guys are rolling with on Wild Card Weekend. Okay, let's shift to this. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers have completed a very successful season in 2020. The Green Bay Packers, they're the only team in the NFC to receive a first-round bye. They got the number 1 seed for the 2021 NFL playoffs, and this is very significant because they're the only team in the playoffs outside of Kansas City that has a first-round bye. And when you look at the teams that Green Bay is going to have to beat if they want to get to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to probably beat New Orleans. New Orleans is a team that plays in a dome. That is advantage Green Bay Packers, because I don't think New Orleans wants to play in the snowy, frozen tundra of Green Bay, Wisconsin. Same thing with the Rams, a warm weather team. Same thing with Seattle, because Russell Wilson, he's never won a game at Lambeau Field. Same thing with Tampa Bay, a warm weather team. And also, Aaron Rodgers has never played a home playoff game in the NFC Championship. All 4 of Aaron Rodgers' appearances in the NFC Championship game have been on the road. He obviously won his first ever NFC title game in 2011 versus the Chicago Bears, in which he capitalized on the opportunity and beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Super Bowl. But yeah, this is a big opportunity for Aaron Rodgers, man, because this Green Bay Packers team is actually really, really good. You look at their offensive line, it's really, really good. The run game is solid, led by Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, A.J. Dillon. He's got a star wide receiver in Devontae Adams, who might be making a case to be the best wide receiver in all football. And this defense is opportunistic and getting better and better as the season progresses. And Matt LaFleur, he's a really good progressive young head coach. Matt LaFleur is super duper underrated as a play caller. And this might very well be Aaron Rodgers' best and last opportunity to win a second Super Bowl in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Because here's what you have to keep in mind. Jordan Love is still on this roster. The former first-round pick who the Packers traded up to get in the 2020 draft. And let's say the Green Bay Packers go one and done in the playoffs. What that will tell Green Bay's organization is, man, we've got a really talented team, but unfortunately, we weren't good enough in 2021. We couldn't make a Super Bowl run. Man, we've gone probably as far as we can go with Aaron Rodgers, He's not getting any younger. This team is probably not going to get any better than it is right now Okay? Sure, next year you'll have good players still in your roster, but this Green Bay team is really, really good and still really, really young. These players are going to get older and older, and you're going to eventually have to pay a guy like Jair Alexander, a guy like Aaron Jones, a guy like Devontae Adams, okay? So it's very ideal that Green Bay, with the number one seed, with the fact that teams are going to have to travel to Lambeau Field if they want to get to the Super Bowl, the road to the Super Bowl is going through the frozen tundra of Green Bay, Wisconsin. This is an amazing opportunity for Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers to get back to the Super Bowl. Drew Brees, he's still very good, but he's much older. You know, he's not the same quarterback that he once was. Tom Brady's on a whole new team, learning a whole new system this year. Russell Wilson's on a talented team, but I don't think that Seattle is as talented as Green Bay. Jared Goff continues to hold the Los Angeles Rams back, and don't even get me started with the Chicago Bears. I give them no shot to beat the Green Bay Packers with Mitchell Trubisky under center. This is a prime opportunity for Aaron Rodgers to get to a second Super Bowl, and this is a prime opportunity for him to actually win a second Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers, I'm holding you accountable. You need to play well in these playoffs. And listen, in the past, it was fair to say that Green Bay did not have a good enough supporting cast around Aaron Rodgers for him to win a Super Bowl. And listen, that might still very well be the case as I speak today, because Green Bay did not do much in free agency or at the trading deadline to upgrade this roster. But as I speak today, based on what I'm seeing right now, Green Bay looks good enough to win the Super Bowl, okay? This is one of the few times where Aaron Rodgers-led Packers team has entered the playoffs, and they're the number one seed. They have the home field advantage, and it looks like Aaron Rodgers has just enough support to maybe get him over the top, okay? In the past, Green Bay's had bad offensive lines. They've not had a great running game. You know, the defense has been very suspect over the years. And listen, Aaron Rodgers is having an unbelievable season. He's completing 70% of his passes. He's thrown for 48 touchdowns on the year. That leads the entire NFL. He's been amazing. He's been sensational, and he would get my vote for the 2020 NFL MVP. Don't you kind of think Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are due for another trip to the Super Bowl? They at least should maybe get to the Super Bowl. You know, you would think so, because it's been almost nearly a decade since Aaron Rodgers has even gotten back to a Super Bowl. Now, I think things are starting to really light up for the Green Bay Packers. You know, they got a really talented football team, star wide receiver, good run game, good head coach that can definitely help out Aaron Rodgers with his play calling, and an opportunistic defense. Green Bay right now, to me, is one of the handful of teams that can win the Super Bowl. You know, they match up pretty well with the Kansas Cities of the world. They match up pretty well with the New Orleans of the world. Obviously, Tampa Bay might be a little bit of a bad matchup, but if you get Tom Brady in the snow in Green Bay, Wisconsin, you know, Aaron Rodgers playing well, Aaron Rodgers being hot, I think you can knock off the Tampa Bay Buccaneers if they were to come to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Only time will tell if that's the case. We'll see if the Green Bay Packers roster will hold up in the playoffs, because I've seen Aaron Rodgers, you know, supporting cast let him down multiple times. You know, so many times we thought, oh, Green Bay, they look good, and the defense wets the bed. The coaching staff wets the bed, you know. So we'll see if Aaron Rodgers and the Packers can get back to a Super Bowl this year. But as I speak today, right now, this is the best opportunity for Aaron Rodgers to get back to a second Super Bowl and win a second Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers. If Aaron Rodgers can't win a Super Bowl this year in Green Bay, they more than likely probably are going to eventually trade him, okay, because Jordan Love is still on the roster. And like I said earlier, Green Bay traded up to go get Jordan Love. They're invested in Jordan Love. And if Aaron Rodgers can't bring home a title this year, then I think Green Bay is going to say, hey, we got to tear this thing down. We might need to go out and trade Aaron Rodgers and just let him go, and let's see what we got in Jordan Love, you know. So if Aaron can't win a Super Bowl this year, he might very well have to win. He might very well have to pull a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning and go to another organization to try to win a second Super Bowl, because this right here is Green Bay's best opportunity in a long time to win a second Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. Green Bay, they're in the driver's seat. They got the number one seed, and they have a really good shot to win Super Bowl 55, in my opinion. Let's see if Aaron Rodgers can get it done. So the LA Chargers just recently fired head coach Anthony Lynn. And to me, this was 100% the right move for the LA Chargers going forward. You know, Anthony Lynn, he had some decent success with the LA Chargers organization. During his 4 years as Chargers head coach, he had a 33-32 record, 31 wins, 32 losses. Back in 2018, the team went 12-4 and made it to the playoffs. And I thought they had a chance to win the Super Bowl that year. Obviously, they came up short versus the New England Patriots in the second round of the playoffs, but they had a good season. You know, Anthony Lynn, he's a good guy. It seems like the players like playing for him, but it's very obvious to me that Anthony Lynn will never be nothing more than an average NFL head coach. And listen, Anthony Lynn, he's going to get more opportunities to become either a coordinator or a head coach elsewhere, okay? Because he's a solid head coach. He's decent. He's not terrible. He's not awful. He's safe. He's solid, you know? So there will be more opportunities for Anthony Lynn. But I said a couple of weeks ago, if the Chargers are serious about maximizing Justin Herbert's prime and getting the most out of him along with the rest of this roster, if they're serious about making deep playoff runs in the AFC, if they are serious about being a Super Bowl contender, they need to fire Anthony Lynn, because you're not going to make those deep playoff runs and get to Super Bowls with an average head coach on your roster, okay? Because who are the head coaches you have to go through in order to make the Super Bowl? Mike Vrabel, Frank Wright, Mike Tomlin, Bill Belichick, John Harbaugh, Kevin Stefanski, Brian Flores, Sean McDermott. Not to mention, you're in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I got nothing against Anthony Lynn, but he is not close to any of those head coaches. Not close at all. That should not be up for debate, okay? And look, there are going to be a ton of head coaches on the market that are going to flock to try to coach Justin Herbert and this very talented LA Chargers roster. You got a very talented quarterback that you can work with. You got some parts on offense and defense to work with as well. This is a very talented Chargers roster, okay? And you're in the LA market. Players are going to want to play in sunny Los Angeles, California. It's a market that's player friendly. You got a quarterback that has a chance to dominate for the next 10 to 15 years if he stays healthy. It's a great opportunity for an up-and-coming young head coach. So the Chargers made the right move. Anthony Lynn, he did a decent job as Chargers head coach, but ultimately the Chargers made the right move to move on from Anthony Lynn, in my opinion. Now, the New York Jets recently fired head coach Adam Gase. And Adam Gase was nothing short of a massive failure with the New York Jets. Keep in mind, Adam Gase was brought in to develop and get the most out of Sam Darnold, the former number 3 overall pick out of USC. And it's pretty clear that Adam Gase did the exact opposite. Sam Darnold, ever since Adam Gase has arrived in New York, Sam Darnold has regressed. Adam Gase stunted the growth of Sam Darnold. He did not properly develop Sam Darnold. He did not get the most out of the roster that he was dealt with, okay? Adam Gase was one of the worst head coaches in all football during his time with the New York Jets. Sam Darnold clearly has not gotten better. He's developed bad habits. Adam Gase has done nothing to help Sam Darnold improve as a quarterback. I remember last year, in 2019, the New York Jets faced the New England Patriots. They lost the game 33-0. Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions in that game. Adam Gase just threw him out there to the wolves, did nothing to try to adjust his game plan during the game. It was an awful performance, okay? And Adam Gase this year, he can only win 2 games with the Jets. The writing was on the wall. This Jets team was not very well coached this year. They were a mess. They weren't very good. Gase was making terrible decisions. He was not, dialing up great game plans. He was supposed to be this offensive guru, but he was nothing. He was nothing short of a failure. Like I said, that's just all I'm going to say. Gase was horrible as New York Jets head coach. And I said that Adam Gase should have been fired after the team started off 0-8. I felt the Jets should have just said, hey, our season's over. Let's go into the tank. Let's try to get this number one overall pick. But unfortunately, the Jets doing what they do. They won 2 straight games down the stretch. And now they can't even get the number one overall pick. And I do think this could seriously impact who the next Jets head coach is going to be, because I mentioned earlier, the Jacksonville Jaguars are a much more attractive spot as opposed to the New York Jets, okay? 100% no doubt about it, okay? A lot of people thought the New York Jets were locks to land. Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence. Personally, I think Trevor Lawrence is a tad bit overhyped, but I do recognize his talent. I do recognize that he very well could be the next great quarterback in the NFL. Now they're going to miss out on the opportunity, because I don't think there's any way on earth the Jacksonville Jaguars pass on Trevor Lawrence despite how good Justin Fields is. I just don't see a world where Justin Fields goes over Trevor Lawrence. You know, I could be a guy that might entertain taking Justin Fields over Trevor Lawrence, but it doesn't matter because I'm not in those NFL draft rooms, okay? I'm not in the NFL front offices, okay? And I just think the Jaguars, they're not going to pass on that opportunity to draft Trevor Lawrence. So the Jets, they probably missed out on getting Trevor Lawrence. They might not get a great head coach this year, and ultimately, Adam Gase has single-handedly really set the Jets franchise back. Adam Gase has single-handedly ruined Sam Darnold's growth and development as a quarterback. He has partially ruined the franchise of the Jets, and he's really set that franchise back. The Jets are a mess right now. I hope they get I hope they get their next head coach right, but ultimately, like I said, Adam Gase was a massive failure as the New York Jets head coach. No doubt about it. Last but not least, I want to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Jacksonville Jaguars fired head coach Doug Marrone after the team only won 1 game in 2020. The Jacksonville Jaguars finished the season with only 1 win and 15 losses. And look, I saw this coming. At the start of the season, I predicted the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to be the worst team in the entire NFL. I felt they were going to have the number 1 overall pick, and I was proven to be right, okay? Now, Doug Marrone did get the Jaguars to an AFC Championship game in his first year as the head coach with the team in 2017, but ever since that moment, the Jaguars have gotten worse and worse as a football team. In 2018, the team went 5-11. 2019, the team went 6-10. And this past year, the team went 1-15. Okay? And look, I saw the writing on the wall. It's very clear to me the Jacksonville Jaguars were tanking this season to try and get the number 1 overall pick. They got rid of a bunch of their star players. You know, they were sitting guys out that were probably good enough to play, but they just sat him out because they said, heck, we don't care. Just rest up, get healthy. We're not trying to win a whole bunch of games right now. And the Jaguars right now are just a mess. And it's pretty clear the Jacksonville Jaguars organization just wants a clean slate. They want to bring in a brand new head coach. They want to draft a star quarterback with the number 1 overall pick. They're probably going to get rid of Gardner Minshew. And they're going to try to sort of rebrand this franchise. But I will say, whether the Jaguars get Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, whoever they draft in this upcoming 2021 NFL draft, it won't matter if they once again whiff on their next general manager and their next head coach. David Caldwell, the former Jacksonville Jaguars general manager, was absolutely awful. The amount of talent that he allowed to leave the Jacksonville Jaguars organization year after year is mind-boggling to me, okay? And he just whiffed on a lot of draft picks. He did not manage the team very well. He just was a bad general manager. And look, Doug Marrone, he's not awful, but he's not special, okay? I've always had this rule in the NFL. You can't have a poor general manager and a poor head coach and expect to go far and make deep playoff runs, okay? You just can't do that, okay? You need a general manager that's going to come in and bring in talent, and you need a head coach that will maximize the players the general manager brings in. Very similar to how the Patriots, the Ravens, the Steelers operate. All of the top tier organizations, have one thing in common. They have a stable general manager and a stable head coach. So it's very important that the Jacksonville Jaguars hit on their next head coach and their next general manager, because I would really hate to see Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields' talents be wasted because the Jacksonville Jaguars can't get the head coach right and they can't get the general manager right, okay? So it's very, very important that if the Jacksonville Jaguars want to start fresh and really be taken seriously long term and make deep playoff runs and turn around this franchise and get back to the AFC Championship game and hopefully maybe win a Super Bowl one day, it is imperative that the Jacksonville Jaguars hit on their next head coach and their next general manager. No doubt about it. Well, folks, that's pretty much all I have today. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Have a God bless day, everyone. Stay safe. I will be releasing another episode this week talking about some of the hottest NFL storylines. I will be putting out some more NBA content pretty soon, hopefully in the next week or so. But that's pretty much all I have today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a God bless day, everyone. Stay safe, and I'm Ghost. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juiciest Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juiciest Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.